Have you ever felt like no matter how carefully you explain yourself, it's never enough? You try to make your intentions clear. You lay out your reasons, defend your choices, speak your truth. And yet somehow, you still end up misunderstood, judged, picked apart, and dismissed. At first, you try harder. You talk more. You repeat yourself, hoping this time, someone will actually listen. But they don't. Not really. And eventually, you get tired of defending your existence. Tired of over-explaining things to people who already made up their minds. Tired of shrinking yourself just to be accepted. That's when something inside you starts to shift. A quiet realization begins to form. You stop trying to be heard, and you start listening, not to them, but to yourself. And then you go silent, not out of weakness, not because you've given up, but because you finally understood something deeper. Silence isn't the absence of noise. It's the presence of control. Silence isn't passive. It isn't retreat. It's focus. It's discipline. It's choosing not to waste your energy on noise that doesn't deserve your voice. And when you move like that, different things start to happen. The world begins to treat you differently. Because when you stop explaining, they start wondering. When you stop chasing, they start noticing. Stay with me until the end, and I'll show you the infinite power of silence. How silence can be used to get everything you ever desired. Let's begin. Part 1. Silence makes people uncomfortable. Have you ever noticed how silence feels almost rebellious in today's world? We live in an age flooded with noise, constant chatter, endless notifications, and the pressure to always have something to say. It's like silence is this rare, uncomfortable pause that nobody wants to face. Most people fill silence with words, not because they have to, but because they need to. They talk to prove something, their presence, their value, their control. But what if, for once, you chose silence instead? When you choose silence, you become unpredictable. Not in a flashy way, but in a way that unsettles the noise-driven world around you. Because silence forces people to pause, not to think about you, but to reflect on themselves. Let me tell you a story. I once knew someone who mastered this art of silence. It wasn't arrogance or coldness, it was quiet strength. In conversations, when others expected immediate reactions, this person simply stayed calm and quiet. People around them started to feel uneasy. Messages went unanswered for hours. Calls were met with quiet, and the reaction was always the same: panic, confusion, frustration. Why? Because silence disrupts the usual flow. It's a pause that doesn't explain itself. It's a space where others confront their own thoughts and fears. Silence shines a light on insecurities we often hide beneath noise and distractions. It makes people realize how much they rely on your reactions to feel secure. Think about it. Why do people panic when you don't reply? Why do they assume something's wrong when you go quiet? It's not about you. It's about their own discomfort with emptiness, their need to control the narrative, to keep the interaction predictable. And here's the real power. When you stop reacting, you stop feeding their control. Imagine your silence as a mirror held up to the world. Suddenly, your stillness reflects back their own anxieties, their impatience, their neediness. And most people don't like what they see. They don't want to face the uncomfortable truth that they've been seeking validation from your reactions instead of finding it within themselves. This is where true power lies, not in dominating conversations or always having the last word, but in mastering the pause. In a world addicted to noise, silence is a quiet rebellion. It's a way to reclaim your energy, your peace, your power. But it's not easy. Silence can feel lonely, even scary. We fear being misunderstood or judged. We worry that if we don't speak, we lose influence or connection. But the paradox is this: when you embrace silence, you don't lose influence, you gain it. People listen more closely, they think more deeply, and they begin to respect the calm you carry. This isn't about being cold or detached. It's about becoming unshakable, mentally and emotionally. It's about transforming silence from a void into a fortress. So next time you feel the urge to fill every space with words, pause. Choose silence instead. Let others wrestle with their reflections. Because when you stop reacting, you stop being a puppet and start becoming the person who can't be broken. Part 2. The inner transformation begins. Here's a truth not many people want to hear. You can't hear your own voice when you're constantly explaining yourself to the world. Picture this. A friend of mine was always defending her choices, her career, her relationships, even her moods. She felt exhausted, like she was carrying the weight of everyone's expectations on her shoulders. The more she explained, the more tangled her thoughts became. Then one day, she simply stopped. No explanations, no justifications, just silence. And that silence? It was the beginning of her transformation. Silence is where self-respect begins. It's the moment you stop performing for others and start becoming your true self. It's where you learn to sit with discomfort instead of running from it. At first, that silence feels heavy, like an empty room echoing with doubts. But if you lean into it, something profound happens. You begin to hear your own thoughts, your true voice underneath the noise. That's where clarity is born. Think about it. How often do we get caught in defending ourselves, explaining why we're late, why we said something, why we didn't do more? We fight battles that don't even belong to us. And in that fighting, we lose sight of who we really are and what really matters. If you take one thing from this, let it be this. The loudest, most powerful changes in your life always start in silence. When you stop defending yourself, you begin to see how many of those battles were never yours to fight. You realize you don't owe anyone an explanation for your growth or your journey. You don't need to broadcast your hustle or justify every step you take. Sometimes the most radical move you can make is to simply disappear. Disappear from the noise, from the expectations, from the pressure. Disappear long enough to come back unrecognizable. It's in that quiet space where you rebuild yourself from the inside out. You shed the parts of you shaped by others' judgments and step into who you were always meant to be. Stronger, clearer, unbreakable. This isn't about silence as avoidance or weakness. It's about silence as power. It's about learning to honor your inner voice over the clamor of the outside world. So next time you feel the urge to explain or defend, pause. Remember that true transformation happens when you stop performing and start listening to yourself. Because when you find that clarity in silence, you unlock a strength no noise can shake. Part 3. True strength lies in stillness, not reaction. By now, you've felt the power of silence and the inner transformation it brings. But there's one more truth you need to understand. True strength is found not in how loudly you react, but in how calmly you hold your ground. Let me share a story that illustrates this perfectly. A colleague of mine once faced a tough situation at work. Criticism from a manager, pressure from deadlines, and gossip swirling around. The usual response would have been to defend, argue, or even lash out. Instead, she chose stillness. She didn't immediately respond to the criticism, nor did she feed the gossip. She simply listened, stayed composed, and acted thoughtfully when the time was right. Her silence unsettled those around her, people who expected a fiery reaction, a fight, or at least a justification. Instead, they were met with calm and steadiness. This unsettled them because it broke their script. They didn't know how to handle someone who refused to play their game. But here's the remarkable part. Her quiet strength not only protected her peace, but also shifted the dynamic entirely. People began to respect her more. They realized that she wasn't easily manipulated or rattled. She was unshaken. This is the power of stillness. When you react loudly, you hand over your power. Your emotions become the fuel for others to control your narrative, push your buttons, or dictate your mood. But when you hold your ground calmly, when you respond with patience rather than impulse, you reclaim control over your inner world. Stillness is not weakness, it's the ultimate form of strength. It's the strength to absorb pressure without cracking, to face conflict without losing your center, and to remain composed even when chaos erupts around you. The world will always try to provoke you, through criticism, drama, or expectation. But when you develop the skill of stillness, you become untouchable. And here's the deeper insight. Stillness creates space for clarity. When you react impulsively, you act from emotion, often clouded by fear, anger, or pride. But stillness allows you to pause, observe your feelings without being overwhelmed, and choose your response wisely. That's true mastery. Imagine a calm lake reflecting the sky. No ripples, no waves, just clear, steady water. That lake holds more power than any stormy sea that lashes out recklessly. You want to be that lake. Your strength lies not in how loud you shout, but in how deeply you hold your peace. So practice stillness. Embrace silence. Resist the urge to react immediately. train your mind to respond, not to react. Because becoming mentally and emotionally unbreakable isn't about avoiding challenges. It's about mastering your response to them. And the people who learn this are the ones who truly can't be broken. Part 4. The shift in power. When you embrace silence, the world around you starts to shift in ways you never expected. Suddenly, people begin to notice, not just your absence, but the space you've created. They whisper, "You've changed. You're different now." And they're right. You have changed. Because while they were busy watching the drama unfold, caught in their own noise and distractions, you were quietly writing your own story, one that doesn't need validation or applause. You were building a presence so solid, it no longer depends on words or explanations. Here's the twist most don't see coming. The very people who dismissed your worth when you were loud, when you constantly tried to prove yourself, will return. They'll sense the new power in your silence, the confidence, the calm, the unshakable foundation you've built. And they'll try to reclaim what they once overlooked. But this time, you don't have to meet them with words. You don't need to justify your growth or explain your absence. Your silence has already spoken volumes. Your transformation is louder than any argument, any excuse, or any justification could ever be. This is the shift in power, a reversal so profound it changes how you are seen and how you move through the world. It's not about control or manipulation. It's about the undeniable authority that comes from self-mastery, from choosing when to speak and when to stand firm in quiet strength. When you stop reacting to others, you reclaim your narrative. You stop giving away your energy to those who don't deserve it. Your silence becomes a statement. You are no longer defined by their expectations or judgments. And in that space, true power lives. Power that is steady, grounded, and impossible to ignore, not because it shouts, but because it commands presence. So let the silence speak. Let the world wonder. Let your growth be the loudest message you send. Because when you shift your power inward, you become unstoppable. The final chapter, the return of the silent one. This is the climax of silence, the moment everything changes. When you return, you won't just walk into the room, you'll own the space. Your steps will carry weight, not because of noise, but because of the unshakable strength beneath them. Your boundaries will be ironclad, no longer negotiable or blurred by the demands of others. Your time, once easily borrowed or wasted, will now be sacred, guarded fiercely like the most precious treasure. And your energy, the fuel for your growth, will no longer be up for grabs. It's yours, reserved for what truly matters. You will become the person no one saw coming, not because you shouted, but because you chose to withdraw. Because when the world was chasing spotlights, you chose the shadows. You built your power in silence, in solitude, in stillness. And now, your presence says everything without uttering a single word. If this message strikes a chord deep inside you, drop a flame in the comments. Let me know you're here. Let me know you're walking this path too. And while you're here, share this with me. What's the biggest truth you've uncovered in silence? Because your words might be the spark that wakes someone else up. The reminder that growth doesn't need noise, and strength doesn't need approval. If you're still reading, still here, that tells me something crucial. You're ready. Ready to stop explaining yourself to those who don't deserve it. Ready to stop proving your worth to anyone but yourself. Ready to become silent and dangerous. If this resonated with you, subscribe to Stoic Clarity and explore the rest of the journey through our videos. Remember this, you don't have to shout to be heard. You just have to evolve, silently,